I always make jokes about how every Long Island downtown has a psychic, but Winter Brook in Northport is the real deal. Message me and I'll tell you the story. Woo! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for all my Instagram fans who have been asking me what my secret story is about Winter Brook, it's happening right now. She is a lawyer who's a psychic. How is that not a TV show? Let's start the podcast.
The Tom Kelly Show. Everybody, I want you to go to the Tom Kelly Show. I want you all to know about the Tom Kelly Show.
And then I'll insert jazzy music. And here we go. Content warning, spoiler alert. Get ready to go to the great beyond. You are experiencing the Tom Kelly Show. Today on the program, I am in my apartment and I am talking to Winter Brook, who I know very little about, except I'll tell you what I know on the surface. I have a friend, Joe Sledge, who lives in Northport, where my friend Father Lou, who is a Catholic priest, spent his final years in retirement. And I still maintain my friendship with Joe Sledge. And we did a walk down the main street of Northport. And Northport is like it's a perfect town that should be put into one of them snow globes that you shake. It's really a half mile of mom and pop shops. It still has like boring insurance agencies next to like mom and pop stores. It's really a great hour. The problem is it takes an hour to get there. But on my walk with Joe Sledge, he points to Winter Brook shop. And you know what's funny? Now I'm having trouble using the possessive with you.
And that's an interesting choice of word.
Yeah. No, but like she has a storefront, and Joe points out, and it's, you know, and I'm going to be blunt with the moment. Joe points out, yeah, that psychic used to be my lawyer. And what a fun story. And the story on Winter is her dad was a lawyer in town for his life, had a great practice, did closings and the town legal work. Winter took over to practice and did the closing on my friend Joe's house at some point 20 to 40 years ago. We'll figure out what the numbers are later. And somewhere along the line, Joe's lawyer became a psychic. And while on this walk, we bump into Winter, and Winter happened to share, my friend Joe was so good to Father Lou at the end of his life. And without charging, without asking, and honestly, Joe is very Catholic. Father Lou was Catholic. You know, the whole priest thing was a real giveaway on that one. But, you know, Winter gave away enough details to just make Joe feel heard and like he mattered. And she didn't try to set up other appointments. There was no bait and switch. And that was the moment I just decided this woman is the real deal. And a week ago, I just made a video being a horse's ass in Northport and alluded to that story. So the back and forths on the Instagram started, and I have always wanted to have a psychic on the show. I've been afraid of having a psychic on the show, and I don't even know if you're actually a psychic.
Yes.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Winter. Is that the words? Is that like, I mean, and I mean this, it's almost like saying to, it's almost like saying to your Asian friend, you're Korean, not Chinese. You know, like, I want to get it right. I want to be respectful to what you do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. What,
you know, the thing
what
is,
are you?
well, I call myself a psychic medium. So the thing is, depending on which background you come from, you might define these terms differently. I knew nothing about this. I didn't know you could talk to dead people. I didn't know what a medium was. You know, as you pointed out, I was an attorney. I had a family. I was in the Rotary Club. That's how I remember Joe even more so.
From the Rotary Club.
He would stop by for lunch once in a while as a guest and give us an update on how the veterans were doing. Because my Rotary Club, they would do pizza night and bring pizza to the vets. We did a campaign sending letters to the soldiers in Afghanistan, you know, as part of our outreach. So that's how my more recent recollections of Joe was how well, you know, he kept us informed what the vets needed. But so anyway, I knew nothing about the metaphysical side of life. You know, there's a law.
That's not something they cover in Northport High School.
No, we didn't talk about it growing up. And I was raised in the Presbyterian church. So the only time we talked about angels was the Christmas pageant. I was a Sunday school teacher. So sometime around 2005, my abilities started to unfold. That's the terminology.
Okay, pause for 1 second. Let me just fix one thing here. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but suddenly I just started sweating. Like, I don't know. You got me sweating. So your powers emerged like a superhero in
So
2005?
yeah, I wouldn't call them powers, they're abilities. They started to open, but I
Okay.
didn't know what it was. I started picking up my business partner. I was on a cruise with my children in the Gulf of Mexico. That's what it used to be
Okay.
called.
And now we know where
And
politics are going. Yes.
yeah, I know we won't talk politics.
Oh,
Um, and all of a sudden I'm picking up my business partner having a like an anger outburst. And back then you didn't make phone calls with your cell phone. So I contacted him a week and a half after, and he apparently had just witnessed a dog getting hit by a car. So he's quite upset. So that made sense, but there was no reason
yeah.
for me to be upset. And one thing happened after another, and so I went to the library and I got books out, and then I started doing internet research, and then I found the spiritualist churches, and that's I really like they believe in the continuity of life, which is proven through mediumship. So that's where I did most of my studies, and I later found out, interestingly, I did Sunday afternoon at the local historical society, Sundays at the society, and they wanted a lecture and they wanted me to do some mediumship. So I discussed the history of modern mediumship, which, according to the spiritualist belief system, was around 1848 when two young girls started to communicate with a ghost in a house in Hydesville. And they happened the day before. They were throwing out old files from like 40, 50 years ago, and they came across a file with a newspaper clipping from 1870 or 1880, interviewing Jesse Jarvis, who is the head of the spiritualist community in Northport. It turns out Northport Village was one of the largest spiritualist communities on the Eastern Seaboard when the mediumship became very popular again after the Fox sisters. People would have seances. That's what they would do on a Friday or Saturday evening. And I've had some local homeowners approach me and invite me into their homes that used to be owned by sea captains or had mediums working there, to kind of pick up the energies. It's been kind of cool.
So Northport, Long Island really is, historically speaking, you're saying one of the first towns in America to really do mediumship, whatever. Am I saying that right?
Not the first town, but they were one of the largest spiritualist communities that grew from the birth of modern spiritualism,
Okay.
from Hydesville and Rochester, the Fox sisters. So, but I knew nothing about that. And, we came to my family. My grandmother emigrated from Norway, and her brother fought on behalf of the Allies and suffered from, what do you call that? Shell shock,
Okay.
and was being treated at the Northport VA.
Gee.
So she came to visit him from Manhattan, where she settled. She was a nurse and she emigrated when she was 31, and saw Northport and said, "This is where I want to raise my children." So she had 3 kids at the time, and she moved out to be closer to her brother, be in Northport. And then my dad was eventually born. And that's how we ended up in Northport. And that was back in like 1918 or something.
Okay. And your
But
family's there now 115 years or 20 years?
yeah. So, but there was never any discussion about mediumship or seances in my house growing up.
Well, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm comfortable with it. I mean, it's just weird. Like I have, the odds of her listening to this are low, but I have family members that suffered personal loss. And I would argue, like my joke about one of my aunts is she's going to psychics once a week to talk to relatives she didn't want to talk to when she was alive, when they lived 5 blocks away. And honestly, I think that's the truth. Like it's just, and whereas on the like I've had a couple of interesting encounters over the years where I probably grew up Catholic with some relatives who are like witchcraft, witchcraft. And honestly, I could see going back to
I
my
have a friend who's a priest, and he actually would come to my mediumship
oh,
dems.
yeah, no. It's just funny how there's a taboo to it to a certain degree. I get nervous about it because I could see it being addicting. Like I could be,
Yeah, when you start to really get involved in learning it, it's like you're a kid in the candy store. That's like metaphysics, whether it's mediumships, tarot cards, astrology.
yeah,
So here's the thing. Mediumship, by proving the continuity of life, is proving the message that Jesus Christ was teaching, which you, as a Roman Catholic, would follow, that, physical death is not the end, and that his
yeah.
father's house has many rooms. You live after physical death.
Hmm.
Number two, it for those who can embrace this understanding, it empowers you to know that you're not going to cease to be. It doesn't mean, you're going to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, but, you're not going to cease to be. You're going to continue to exist. Number three, so that should minimize fear.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, everybody grieves differently, but you still grieve knowing you can connect with your loved ones. But it's just a little different because I know they made it. I know they're okay. I can still interact with them. My father and we've had some wonderful experiences since he's been on the other side. Because, I've had people call me up that live in one of the buildings he used to own and say, I think I have a ghost here. And they didn't know my dad owned the building. They called me because I was a medium. And they just
And you would
died.
show their
And
house
I'm
and
like,
find
that's
your
my
father.
dad. He's walking through your apartment trying to make sure everything's okay. Because he always wore a fedora. And the person would see a male spirit with a long
Okay.
top coat and a fedora. And everybody knew my dad used to walk a lot. So yeah.
So this is silly. I hope, like, using your dad as the example. I hope to God when I die, I'm not worried about real estate I used to own. You know what I'm saying? Or is that I don't know, like I have trouble imagining what heaven is or the afterlife is, whatever word we want to use. I always
So
believe that the best parts of the people who pass are with us and somewhere else at the same time.
yeah, so the thing is, he's not worried about, although he has come through. And one day he kept saying to me, check the boiler, call Lewis. I used to use them. And he kept giving me these messages, and I kept, I'm checking the building and everything's fine. But what I didn't hear or he didn't say was my house boiler. And I got home at the end of the day, and something just made me open the basement door, and all the steam came flying up. So he was trying to help me out. But anyway, um, they're not limited to just being here. They can exist in the heavens as you describe it, or in other planes, and then visit and be aware. And why not connect with loved ones? The love does not die
That part I believe
as
in
you
for sure.
cross over.
Yeah.
Why not connect? I have a lot of fun with my dad. I had a medium come visit me, Rachel from the UK, and the first night she was here, her hours were off, right? She woke up early hours, didn't want to put the hallway light on because she didn't want to wake my younger daughter and I. And she knew no one else lived in the house besides my younger daughter and I. And she stepped out. She needed to have her cup of tea in the morning. And she thought she knew where the staircase was in the
Okay.
dark. And she went to take a step, and she felt something grab her by the shoulder and yank her back into the wall, startled the crap out of her. She puts the light on, looks down. She realizes she would have fallen. So when I got up later, we talked about it. I said, that's got to be my dad. And then he came through. He exerted force to prevent her. And she's, not a small woman, from falling down the flight of stairs. And my nephew did the same thing with me when I was in Arizona. I was hiking and I slipped and
Okay.
I couldn't stop, and it was going off. They don't have guardrails in Arizona. And all of a sudden, in the corner of my eye, I saw my nephew, and I felt him just push me down, and I was sitting on my behind, and that's what stopped me. So, and there's many
Here's a stupid
stories.
one, because I believe in everything you just said there. Uh, can the regular person figure out? Like, there's moments where somebody must be looking out for me. I believe in those moments. Now,
Absolutely.
is there a way regular people can figure out? Oh, that was my dad and not my uncle and not my cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Discernment, yes. So the best way for rather than call them regular people, just I like to say active or non-active, um, recognize, be open to it. Sometimes when I inform someone that yes, in fact, they have abilities, they will start experiencing, it's almost like somebody's given them permission, not just me in particular, but when they go to another medium, the same thing. So to be open to it and then read some books about it. And the best practice is to start a meditation practice, like maybe meditate once or twice a week if they can fit it in their schedule. So meditation is a win-win, doesn't cost you anything. It's great for your physical, emotional, and mental health. It also helps quiet the mind to enable your loved ones to connect with you.
So it's funny. I'm going through a big stage in life. I don't know if I'm forcing myself to have a midlife crisis or if I'm really having one. I don't know how much you researched on me.
I've not researched anything.
Great. Before the pandemic, I worked at uh, 3 different TV shows. I was a premier comedian working at TV shows. And then the pandemic came, and the 2-week vacation is now 5.5 years later. I've never quite rebounded. I have this beautiful apartment in New York City that I'm renting. Um, yet my friends and
No wonder it was a long drive to Northport for you.
yeah, it's from there, and then even from my family's in Massapequa, where my parents are obsessed with Northport, and I may get them a night at the Northport Hotel one day. They love Northport. It's just that 20-minute drive up Elwood is what kills it for me. Like for being a comedian and having business in the city and elsewhere. Northport is classy Long Beach for me as a mainland Long Islander. But without rambling, I'm in a position where I keep using this expression on the podcast that I'm looking for the voice of God. And before the pandemic, I want to be clear, I was nowhere, I still had goals to chase, but I had a mission that I was a comedian trying to get on TV and get his own show. Now I have 2 healthy parents. Um, I have family and relatives on Long Island. Is a big part of me that feels I need to be there and closer to them. My videos are doing better as a Long Island. Like I am, like I make a video about Northport that went regionally viral is the word I keep using. Not quite making me money, but everybody, I'll argue everybody in Northport with Instagram has seen that video at this point. Now, whether or not they come along to watch my Massapequa video, my Huntington video, my Comac video, that's a whole other thing. Um, and yeah, so to your point, and bringing it back to what you just said, I've been thinking about getting back to meditation to just hear whether it be the real voice of God or my own internal monologue. I've been hearing nothing but static in my head, and I don't. And I guess bringing
You're writing new material, correct, for your shows?
not enough, not really, and that's where like it's funny. I'm at this weird spot.
Because as I look at you, I can see you have you have inspirers that are going to inspire the material that comes to you. All of a sudden, you have that moment of oh, aha, yeah, that's
Yes,
spirit. And if you actually, it's neat. If I watch somebody giving a speech, if you like a John F. Kennedy, you watch, you can see the inspirers from spirit, or you watch the preacher at the pulpit. You can see the beautiful light coming down from the heavens, inspiring what they're going to say.
yeah, so it's funny. Even those moments right now, I'm doing a program, a book that you may have heard of, The Artist's Way. Have you ever crossed paths with that one? You almost, when I hear the author's voice and when I'm reading it, it sounds a lot like you right now. And I mean
Oh,
that as a
okay.
compliment.
Thank you.
It's very spiritual without being religious, but it sort of said what you said in that sentence, which is you have to believe that creativity is a gift from God. you
Yeah.
know, you know. So I do believe that. And I guess what I used to say was I used to feel God's purpose or a sense of certainty that I have not felt, maybe not at the beginning of the pandemic. I felt a clear certainty to rest. And now it's just like the lease is up in July. I keep looking for places on Long Island, but I can't find, like for this apartment, I looked at 100 apartments and then I came in and knew this was the place. I've
Okay.
looked at 100 places on Long Island, and each one I'm like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, wondering if I'm being too picky with my porridge, with whether or not I even want to still be a comedian. I mean, I keep getting little successes.
Lawyer,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
medium.
and it's funny. By no means, like I sometimes joke, I'm Sicilian. I have gypsy blood because I got great stories about my mother's mother. My mother's mother, she was on that thin line between psychic or batshit crazy. And
Okay, so you know what psychic means? Translated? The
translate
soul.
the soul. Okay, so you're right. I need clearer words when I'm talking to you because you're a professional. I'm used to using dumbed down comedian words, but
No, no, I'm just bringing it out though. Psychic is a soul because there is, negative connotations around psychics. I honestly, I used to, when I heard the word psychic, I thought it was the woman that looked like a gypsy at the carnival. I was not raised or exposed to this side of life. I am so happy that I am open to spirit and I get to connect with the other side. I love to meet people. That's the Irish lawyer in me. So I love to meet, those on the other side and connect them. I like to bring healing. What is greater than being able to connect parents with a deceased child?
Okay, here's a question for you. So you're really and trying to use the right nomenclature. Uh,
You're very good. No, I
Very good. How
appreciate
about
it.
that for working that word in? But like, I feel like when I think the word psychic, I see, I in my mind, I feel predicting the future. When I hear
That's
medium, in my mind, I feel connecting with those who passed. Do those two? Am I using the words right before I ask the next question?
You are. However, depending on the belief system someone's trained in, they may use the word psychic universally to also incorporate talking to the discarnates, people that are no longer in the physical. So that's what I'm saying. Wiccans and witches, that it's a belief system. They do their own training, but they have a different definition. When I started the work, I really wish there was a uniform encyclopedia or dictionary that everybody could look because it was. So yeah, seeing into the future, that is a lot of that is psychic, absolutely. And
Is it possible
using
to
your third eye.
have both?
Yeah, actually, the
Is
way
it did it cause?
spiritualism teaches it, every medium is a psychic. Not every psychic practices mediumship. It's like AM and FM. If you want to, compare it to a radio station, you can. The psychic works with the energies on this plane.
Right.
The mediumship tunes it up a little bit to work with the energies on the spiritual plane.
So
However, there is no clear delineation because we have a spirit team that works with us and they help us, whether we're working psychically or mediumship. And therefore, you're always working with your team. Like
so
you have a team that's helping you, you have a guide that helps you with your comedic inspiration.
So do I have a team around me? Do you have a team around me? You. Like sometimes I feel like I don't have anybody around me at
You
all.
do. You do.
Is it the
You,
same people all the time or is it rotating?
so the way I understand it, and from what I've been shown, you have several guides that you hire before you come down and incarnate. Because I actually tried to fire one of my guides because they kept letting the dead people in when it was opening the gifts. I'd be at Rotary and all of a sudden I'd see, it started opening and I didn't want that. I wanted to do it when I'm sitting at my office working with the client or doing a dem at a library or something. However, it wasn't the guide, it was my lack of training, I learned. So you have the same thing. You hired some guides to accompany you on this journey, and they're with you from the moment you're born or even beforehand until the time you pass, and they escort you to the other side. Then during your lifetime, depending on what you do, different guides will come in, whether it's for a period of time or for a specific task. So one of the things that I do is healing. I'm a Reiki master, and I do healing with the energy work, and I have a healing guide. When I train people in Reiki, which I strongly encourage people, even if you're not open to mediumship yet, one way to assist in that endeavor is to get attuned to Reiki, and then you can do healing, because I think everyone can do healing. And you'll find if you have any children with special needs and autism, they really gravitate towards the Reiki.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, I had a teacher aide I attuned to master. She was the only teacher aide that could handle like this one girl who happens to live in my building in the back. When she had a meltdown, she's severely autistic. Nobody could handle her. But this one teacher aide who was a Reiki master, she'd just have the Reiki flowing. She'd walk over to the girl would calm down. Same thing, like the girl would get upset, her mom would bring her down to my office. We'd just talk, and I'd be sending the Reiki to her, and it would calm her down. And I know I've heard like about 20 years ago, there was a Reiki master that used to train any of the parents of special needs students at Smithtown High School through the SEPTA PTA. So that when the kids came home and they were all like this from school, parents would be just Reiki 1, just be able to give them the Reiki, the energy healing, because it calms you down. So, and hospitals now are allowing or authorizing their doctors to recommend it to patients, because it reduces the amount of pain medication the patient might need from a surgery. It also expedites recovery. And my daughter's a doctor, my older one, and she, prescribes it to her patients up in Boston. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
so the guides come for specific purposes. And when I attune people to Reiki, I can see the new guides stepping forward into the aura. And I have seen a guide with you who has identified themselves as a male. He shows himself as a male, that works with you with your comedic talent.
now,
And you're right. I think if you would try to devote a little bit more time to maybe a meditation practice, you may find things clearing up and some answers.
a silly one. Now, when you get into the guides, is it somebody I'm related to? Is like when you get into who?
No, not necessarily. I mean, so I do feel our loved ones, when they cross over, they could choose to work with our spirit team.
Right.
I had a friend, his name was Dave Cross. And when I first started opening to mediumship, he had passed away. The Cross family and the Ryan family go back many years in Northport. So I was uncomfortable with these guides because I didn't know them. My third eye was just opening, so it was hit or miss. And so Dave would come in for at least for the first year. So I knew he was an intermediary between my spirit team. I would see his face in my mind's eye, and I would listen, and I, to the.
So I mean, this is so jokey. God, this is so jokey, and I don't mean it to be. But what, like right now, if I have you see, like just you. First of all, I guess should have said this 20 minutes ago, but you can connect with people over Zoom.
Yeah, because there's no boundaries to energy. Many of my clients are from other countries, so they're not going to fly into Northport.
Okay.
For reading. There's no bounds of energy. Energy is not contained like we are.
Okay. Does everybody have a certain number of guides?
I don't think so. I think it's individual. There are some writers out there that say you have 7 guides. I don't think that's true. I think, like your fingerprint, everybody, whatever your role is, what you want to accomplish in this lifetime.
So that's funny. So I have a comedian guide, but we don't know who he may be.
Yeah, you have a guide that helps you with your comedic talent.
Okay. I feel like I've never had a guide who guides me romantically. and that would I almost don't want to blame anybody on that. And if I do have a romantic guide, we need to start yelling at them now.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Remember, I tried to my main guide, I tried to fire for sleeping on the job. Um, so yeah, that's funny. You mentioned that. I used to go to speed dating when I was first opening up, and
Right.
I used it as a way of reading the people. But then what happened was I started getting their dead people before I even got to the reading event. And I got real nervous when there was a little Italian like grandmother came through and I just wanted to smack someone. I said, "Oh my God, who am I going to meet tonight?" Yeah, that was interesting.
So actually, do you have problems being in crowds if you're that open?
I did, and I refuse to allow that to happen. A lot of sensitive people, because it may not necessarily be mediums, might be sensitive. But for a while, till I learned to control the energy, I used to like if I had to go to Costco around Christmas, I'd grab a very grounded friend just to go with me. But now I can really control the energy, but I've been doing it for 15 years. So not everybody can. So I'm not saying that they're deficit in any way, but you can have tools. You get the crystals, like little black stones.
No, it's just funny that I mean, right now I was a little interested or curious to see who you would pick up on around me. And maybe it's also because I'm in, comedian and performer mode right now that I'm talking with you.
Yeah, so I have a few people. So I have a grandmother and I have a grandfather. I
It's
was going to get the grandfather figure, but then the grandmother is pushy. And she pushed him out of the way and she said, me, 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 me. So would you understand a grandmother in spirit?
I understand two different grandmothers.
Okay, don't give me any more. Just say, yeah, I do. And then
Yes, yes.
this grandmother, I want to say, had a few extra pounds on her. She pulled her hair back and she was pushy. She expressed herself. Because as I said, I had a gentleman coming forward and she pushed him out of the way and she said, I want to come through.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I do feel that I think she was Italian. I'm seeing Italy.
Yes.
Okay. And this would have been dad's mom, correct?
Dad's mom would be pushy Irish. Mom's mom is more subtle but confident Italian.
Okay, my mistake. And this stuff is not 100% just like anything else.
Oh, it's
So I'm with the Italian grandmother,
okay.
but she was stubborn to the point that she was going to come through because she wanted to talk to her grandson. So I said pushy, but if you want to recharacterize the word as stubborn, she was not going to lose her opportunity to step forward and connect with you.
Interesting. See, that I wouldn't guess with her. Interesting.
Okay.
Oh, but I mean, but not that I'm, yeah, interesting.
All right, because that's the way she's presenting herself. Maybe that's the reason why. If you felt like she didn't express that much interest in you, she's coming through now to say yeah, she is. And I feel like she would be the one that would want to set you up with one of her friend's daughters.
So
She would be more of a matchmaker.
so what's funny is my father's mother I never met, and sometimes I do think she's with me. The short story is my mother. I was close with my mother's mother,
The
and
Italian.
the Italian one, but she had no friends or friends' daughters.
But she would be the one that would want to be a matchmaker since you said, your guide isn't, do you have a romantic guide? I feel like she would be the one that would say, I'll take care of it. I will find.
Okay, and you know what's funny? If that's my romantic guide, I'm going to die alone. It's
No, not to be your guide, but if she were here on Earth, she
we're
would
here.
want to
Okay,
say,
yeah. No,
I will take care of that. I will find him someone. So with her, and I don't mean to be rude to your paternal grandmother, but with your maternal grandmother, she's the one that wanted to come through, and that makes sense. You knew her.
I knew her.
Yeah, so it was and your paternal grandmother is probably around you as well. So
Right.
but maternal grandmother is the one that wanted to come through, and I do feel like she's pushing you to go back to church. So I don't know if you've been attending services as regularly as you used to.
I've been going quite a bit, and maybe that's
Okay, good.
stick with maybe, but it's new and yeah.
That she's aware, and I feel like she's saying that's a good place to find a nice woman.
Okay.
All right. And now your grandmother, she was a worrier,
Yes.
and she said you've inherited that trait through your mother. You
Mhm.
tend to worry about too much, and she would like you to just try to enjoy more, particularly this summer. You
Okay.
spend a lot of time in your head.
I'm very much in my head right now. That's why I'm talking to you. That's why I came to you. Yeah.
All right. And what she's saying is if you let it go and just go out and have fun, sign up to do some activities, things will unfold.
Gotcha.
All right. And you'll meet some nice ladies.
Yeah, it's just my block right now is, do I do that in Manhattan? Do I do that on the
You're
road?
overthinking it.
Yeah. Well, I have a lease that's up. That's what I'm not even over that the
Well,
overthink.
that's moving. So, but you can, if you're not buying a house, and even if you do buy a house, you can sell it. I mean,
Yeah.
some of us represent people that sell houses. But if you, rent another apartment, you can always not renew that lease
That's a
if you
good point.
happen to meet somebody and it's going to be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
So you're in good shape there versus somebody, that owns a house and it's not as easy to sell a house as it is to re-rent.
Yeah, I'm at this spot. Do I renew where I'm only kind of happy and a little bit miserable? I guess that's the answer I've been looking for is where to plant the flag for the next 12 months. And you may not have that answer. That my guides may not have that answer. They're not speaking to me directly on that. It's hard when you have something that's fine, but you're looking for something that feels better than fine.
Right. Yeah, because you hate commuting.
Well, you know, it is everything I love in life. I think who I am is more in Manhattan, but everything else for me is more an hour that way.
Right. And I'm like, that I feel that. So,
And
but the
and I
problem is if you move back to Massapequa, you're going to hate having to schlep into Manhattan.
Yeah, maybe I keep that and there you go.
And there's a lot of your business or career opportunities it's much easier in Manhattan.
Yeah, and just weirdly, those opportunities have not been presenting themselves here, if that makes sense lately. Like right now, I've had 2 days of work. I worked at Good Morning America this week. I'm working at Colbert next week, but that might be the only 2 days of work
I
I've
feel
had.
like that's going to change in August.
See, now that is a crucial month for TV.
I just feel like it's going to change in August. So, you have family and friends on Long Island. I would say if it's not financially overbearing to renew your lease in Manhattan for the year
Yeah,
and stay, if you want to go visit friends and family for a week, stay with them and be in Manhasset.
Yeah, Massapequa. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No,
Massapequa.
no,
And
but
then you can always decide to relocate after, next year.
where I turned 50, and that's an even number. That sounds stupid, but that means
That's
something.
why you're having when we hit 50, we have that midlife crisis.
Yeah.
I
Now,
got Maine Coons. When I
what's
was
that?
turning 50, a lot of women will do the boob job or the tattoos,
You gotta
sports
yeah.
cars.
No, and it's funny because like I've had a crush on a
I
woman.
got him.
Oh my God, he's adorable. I've had a crush on a woman in North Carolina who checks off all the boxes for things I want in life. She has shown no interest in me. Uh,
No, maybe that's one of your boxes too. Hard to get.
I love hard to get. Honestly,
There you go. You like a challenge.
it's when they show interest. I guess now here's a question. When people come to you,
Yes,
do they come to you with questions or do you come to them with answers to questions they haven't asked yet?
both. So sometimes people come in because they want, certain questions answered. Am I going to, what should I do? Should I stay or should I go? Is my career going to do this? They want to, sometimes they just want to connect with someone on the other side, or they want some clarity as to events leading up to that one's passing. I personally won't do health readings. I know there are some mediums that do. I recommend them, the clients, if they want health readings. I'll tell them my daughter's a practicing physician in Boston if, they want to go see her, but I'm a lawyer and a medium, not a doctor. But,
Okay.
it depends on the client. It's if you're going to go for a reading, if you have one or two general questions, that's best. Let spirit kind of come through. If you show up with like 20 questions, you'll probably foul up your reading, because then the medium gets so focused, or the psychic, on trying to give you the answers to the particular questions, and you're blocking out spirit.
So if I were letting go and letting the universe speak to me through you, what does the universe, whether it be my grandmother, my comedic guide, what does the universe need to tell me that I feel like I'm not hearing?
So your grandmother came through today and encouraged you to join some activities locally to meet nice women
Mm-hmm.
or potential dates. There's no doubt that you won't, but of course you have free will. So if a woman is going to express interest in you, if that turns you off, you'll probably be a lifelong bachelor. Like you said. Number two, I really get the impression that job-wise, things are going to heat up in August. So it might behoove you to remain in this apartment if that's you're closer to getting to where you need to be in Manhattan. And you can always come out on Long Island and visit friends and stay with them for a long weekend, etc. And then think about relocating next year if that's what you want to do. So that was your other question.
That was my other question. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as you did indicate you thought you're going through maybe a midlife crisis, you don't know what you want to do. That's normal for your age. I went through it myself, and I'm sure more than half your listeners have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I would recommend getting an amazing astrological reading by my friend Joanne Wolf.
Okay.
I
What
go to her.
Long
She's an
Islander?
astrologist. I am
Yeah.
not. And she's certified. And I mean, she's a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. So she lives in that other Northport you described, Long Beach, Oceanside.
Okay. Gotcha.
And she does it by phone. So
Oh,
over
that's even better.
Zoom. So you don't even have to travel to her. And I go to her, especially when I'm lost, because sometimes I can't see the forest between the trees for my own stuff sometimes,
Oh,
because I'm too emotionally invested. So I'll ask Joanne.
I guess it's with your oldest daughter, if I'm getting the numbers right. Your oldest daughter had to think, when suddenly mom's giving up her law practice to pursue being a medium, what did your family start saying?
Well, that all happened when I lost my parents, because I lost my dad in 06, and then 13 months later I lost my mom, who was bedridden for 14 months in my home, and I was her caretaker and running my practice as a solo practitioner and being a single mom. So my kids were very attached to their grandmother, because she lived with us, and so it was also part of, I needed to spend time with my children following the boom boom losses of the grandparents, especially since my mom was with us. And so I took the time, I figured I kept my license, I can still practice, but I figured, let me investigate the mediumship and let me be home when they get off the bus. Let me help them through this, it just is. So but I am still licensed. I'm retired status with the law, and like right now, I'm a huge child advocate. I love children. Obviously, I'm trying to adopt. But I'm so upset when I see these videos with these young children, immigrants that are being in immigrant court without counsel now because I've been trying to like volunteer hours just to.
Can you? Are you able to volunteer as a lawyer
I
still?
don't know. I've written to the Bar Association and also Letitia James.
Watch how I know as little about law as I do about being a medium. What kind of lawyer would you call your type of lawyer? You like the home lawyer, like a general lawyer, right?
Well, the practice I had was more like elder law. I did real estate closings, wills, trusts.
So in some ways,
But the way I think about it is I could figure it out, and a 2-year-old should have an adult representing their interests in court, or a 4-year-old.
I agree with you, and you probably have the right heart and the right skill, background, or education to do that. I guess you brought me to a great question. If we were going to close out this as a podcast, because I know your time is valuable. You gave me a lot for me personally, but what I think you can give the people who listen to the show is that when this podcast started out, it was a pandemic project for people in transition. And it sounds like you've gone through one and maybe going through another one yourself as you're feeling the calling to help children out.
Actually, I was Woman of the Year in Northport for work I did with Rotary, bringing indigenous children from mainly Honduras for corrective heart surgery. We'd bring them to Stony Brook, and I'd find places for them and their parent to stay while they had the surgery. So I've always been
so I guess my
humanitarian.
So you've always been a humanitarian, but but what I find interesting with you is you seem to find ways to manifest it. Am I saying that? Like, it sounds yeah, I'm trying to say that. No, I'm trying to give you a compliment because I think there's,
thank you.
No, but I think there's something smart that I haven't gotten out of you yet in this conversation, which is, it sounds like there've been a few points in your life, without using the word midlife crisis, but let's use it as a dumbed down version of what I'm saying. There've been moments where I think, either did you feel the urge to keep transforming, or did you feel static and then transform? And what advice do you have for people going through those types of stages?
Well, so I'm a Gemini. We like to do a lot.
What birth date?
June 21st on the solstice.
Oh, so you're also Cancer and stubborn then, right?
I guess I could be stubborn. I'm pretty easygoing, but I mean, if I were representing my clients or a child or something, yeah, I could be wicked stubborn. So okay. I also
the question is for people who are the question for you personally is, did you feel static and then transform, or did you just feel the urge to transform? And then what advice do you have for people who are going through moments where they know it's time to change, but they don't know what to change to?
Okay. So yes, I would recommend visiting a recommended psychic or intuitive for assistance in getting ideas. You don't have to do what they say, but maybe that will help uncover things that aren't coming right to the surface about what direction to move in. Number two, I have been raised and why am I here? Right?
Mm-hmm.
For the experience. That's the name of my mediumship company. I am walking on earth to have the experience of being a human. So I want to have as many experiences as I can. I also want to be like Mahatma Gandhi, or people you respect. I want to be kind. There's so many people that are so narcissistic or wrapped up in themselves. I try to lend a helping hand. That's the Rotary model. I'm not in Rotary anymore, but I certainly believe in what they stand for. I just can't do the weekly meetings and all that.
Okay.
So, I try to help people in the background. I try to do more public things like helping the children. The mediumship comes from a place of me wanting to help people, connecting them, maybe empowering them, because I can identify that they too have abilities that they're not tuned into. And as I said, I had 30 years of living without abilities. Okay. I don't want to go back there. It's like when I was in elder law, I said, if I ever get Alzheimer's, shoot me, because I had to work with so many families with Alzheimer's patients. it's devastating disease. And now as an active medium, I don't ever want to go back to not being able to connect, not only with my soul self, but my loved ones on the other side. Or, I connect with animals, because everything is energy. I mean, we are energy. That was one of the first things that came to mind. Of all things, the attorney for my title company, who I was very friendly with, when my abilities started opening, he pointed out to me that if you took a thin sliver of your desk and held it under a microscope, there's going to be all little, what do you call it?
Microbes?
Yeah, and things moving around, even though it looks like a stationary item.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, you mean molecules, atoms, and all.
Molecules, thank you. Sometimes, at my age, you lose the words. So that's the cusp of it right there. We are energy having a human experience. We are able to connect with other beings, whether they're human or animal or spirit. We are able to connect with our soul. Sometimes we don't hear our own soul because our human self is yelling so loud in our head, usually stemming from fear, or other, lower emotional states, that it blocks out the wisdom of our own soul. Or, as you pointed out, you want to connect more to God. Well, a part of you, there's a spark of the divine that is what creates you in your current incarnation. So you're there. You just have to be quiet and listen. You can talk and hear him back. So,
Well, Winter, I think you gave me the perfect interview.
thank you. And thank
That
you
was
for
not, and that
having
was
me.
button.
Thank you for the shout out. I've actually gotten a lot of calls. I
Have you?
appreciate that. Yes.
Good.
Unfortunately, I'm on my way to Japan this weekend for a couple of weeks, but I will
Did
get
it
to
help? Did it help
everyone.
business? Because I'm trying to figure this stuff out. Did it help business?
Yeah, no, people are calling me, and I appreciate that. It's just that I'm for my daughter's finishing her residency, so we're going to Japan for a couple of weeks. But then I'll be back working.
Well, let's connect in person when you're back, and maybe there's ways we can help each other out. And this was fantastic.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a good time. So your daughter, who's the doctor in Boston, is finishing her residency?
Yep.
Okay. Very nice. And then what are we doing in Japan, and why Japan?
That's where she wanted to go.
End of speech.
We're vacationing. We're going to go to Tokyo for a few days and then take a tour. And coincidentally, if there are coincidences, one of the stops where we'll be going is Kyoto, which was where the founder of modern day Reiki started his Reiki practice back in the 1800s. Remember, I mentioned I'm a Reiki master, but this wasn't. I actually wanted to go to Greenland, but not now with us bullying them. So, but my daughter wanted to go to Japan, so that's where we're going. I'm very proud of her. She just got back from Africa. She worked there for a month and trained medical students and helped in their wards. They don't have as much as we do here, so be grateful. As bad as some people think our medical system is, be very grateful.
Oh yeah, no, it gets worse, but it could be better.
Yeah, but she's just spent a month in Africa working in a hospital there, and
you're lucky to have a daughter with a. You did something right if she has a spirit as generous as you.
thank you.
I love it. So listen, we'll reconnect, and if you can, send me the file, and the sooner you send me the file, the sooner I'll put the podcast up. I'll either put it up this Sunday or a week from Sunday.
Okay, I'll be down. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Thanks, God.
Gracias, my friend. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
God bless.
Bye.
I'm actually hiding in an elevator to record the wrap to the show. New podcasts every Sunday, guaranteed, sometimes twice during the week. New content on Instagram twice a day, all at Tom Kelly Show. Do me a favor, folks. If you can, hit like on this, hit subscribe on the podcast, show love where love can be shown. Quick magic mirror part of the podcast. I see my friend Judy. Judy, I just had the lunch with you, so you're the person I'm shouting out. And that's about it, folks. Until next time, good night, New York.